This guy could be a perfect CTO, Chief Technology Officer. If he works for another startup, he'll make a perfect team. But then he tried to become a CEO by himself. And after 2 years, he wasted 2 years of his time, his mom's saving, as well as the government's money.
And do you want to ask any tips about the startup world, since he has a lot of experience?
What's the most important thing for you to invest in a new startup? Like in very early stage, right?
Right.
You do not have any business traction or this kind of thing.
Now I have a more focus, which is the zebra mindset. So I do not invest on anything that is a purely business model innovation. But I think as an angel investor, and also I can say for a lot of my friends, the most important is the team.
Yep.
I have seen maybe over 1,000 startup teams in my life. One thing is sometimes you have people who are very good at technology, but they do not know how to do business. Sometimes you have people who's top sales guy, but then he can't deliver. And then you need a person in the team that does finance and operation. Sometimes we can one person, sometimes you need two, to make sure that finally you have a delivery of the product. Because from where you make something working in a lab, like a working prototype, to where you can actually mass production, that's a huge gap.
Sure.
Okay, in terms of selecting of material, safety concerns, pricing, design. Business model really is not that important. Because usually by the time we invest and you start doing it, the market change. And you need to adjust your business model. But a good team can always turn a failed business model into a working one.
I do have a follow-up question. Do you think entrepreneurship is something that can teach?
People are born entrepreneurs, or they are not. It's a personal characteristic. What we have today sometimes is that it's very bad, as because of all the encouragement from the media, from government, from everybody saying, oh, we should do startups and things like that. We have turned some of people who are not suitable to be entrepreneurs to become entrepreneurs. This guy could be a perfect CTO, Chief Technology Officer. If he works for another startup, he'll make a perfect team. But then he tried to become a CEO by himself. And after 2 years, he wasted 2 years of his time, his mom's saving, as well as the government's money. Entrepreneurs are usually people, risk takers, quick decision makers. They're always looking for improvement and challenges and things like that. And not everybody's like that. In fact, I will argue only a very small portion of people are like that. And which is not a bad thing.
True.
Because the society can't all be entrepreneurs.
For a long time, Hong Kong has been very dependent on its financial industry. So in your opinion, would that lead to industrial imbalance? And what might be a good solution? It's
not leading to industrial imbalance. It has already led to, we are under a huge industrial imbalance right now in Hong Kong. It's not imbalance, it's just too narrow. But on the other hand, finance is actually highly related to technology and innovation. We always said finance is actually the blood for innovation, because innovation always is linked to risk. So you need finance, you need capital market to match that kind of risk. That's why I think for Hong Kong, it's not bad that we are financial. Not only because the risk part, but also any startup that is a life cycle. Each stage of the life cycle, you will need the finance market, from seed to angel to Series A, Series B, Series C, IPO. At different stage, there will be different kind of investors. What is good in Hong Kong is we almost have the whole range, except the size is a bit different. But what we need to do, though, is that in Hong Kong, we cannot do finance for finance's sake. Finance has to be linked with real industries. It can be with the traditional industries like trading and manufacturing, but also in Hong Kong's and Shenzhen's case, with ventures, with high-risk ventures. And I think that actually will create a very good ecosystem.
I feel like in Hong Kong, we are quite strong on the the stock market, right? But for early stage investment, we do have a big room for improvement.
So what do you think about, because recently there was this IPO about this ANT Finance, but then it got suspended. So what's your opinion about that?
Well, I think it's a legitimate concern. If you look at the way Ant Finance is structured, it's very high gearing. It's not totally being regulated and like the other financial institutions like banks. I read the announcement of the Shanghai Stock Exchange. It actually says that because of the new findings and the new discussion between the regulatory body and Ant, the controlling people of Ant, some of this disclosure is no longer valid, and they need to rework on that. They didn't say you cannot be IPO, but just the way they describe their business maybe needs to be changed. Okay. This applies to things like Uber and some other things, and Airbnb as well. There's a reason why we have regulatory. There's a reason why we have licenses for taxi drivers. There's a reason why we have licenses for banks and insurance, because these things affect people's livelihood severely. So in this case, the government are the only person that can help to basically counter the kind of inequality between the platform and the small consumer. And that's therefore regulations and regulatory bodies need to be in place.
What suggestions do you have for Hong Kong to enhance the innovation and technology development? And there is any message you would like to convey to the Hong Kong young people that are passionate about this industry?
First of all, I think you just mentioned the right word, passion. Okay, I think for anybody who wants to go into innovation and to be, whether it's a startup or whether you join a startup, you have to have the passion. Okay, openness, I think, is more important, not to the young guys, but to the government and also to the general public. We need to be error tolerant. Okay, in the past, for whatever reason, we used to be like that, but for whatever reason, maybe Hong Kong has become so mature, they were not that error tolerant. We want everybody to be correct. If you punish them every time by a capital punishment, no one will try to innovate. Okay, but here we always said, if a government tries something new and they fail, the first thing is apology, the second thing is step down. Okay, then no government officer will risk their job to try new things. I think what we need to do is really open to innovation, to be open to failures. Okay, in our industry, we, especially in the tech investment, we always say fail fast, fail forward. Okay, you learn by failing. If you go to the Silicon Valley, for example, there's so many of these serial entrepreneurs.
We had the third consecutive failure of the Falcon rocket for SpaceX. Tesla almost went bankrupt. We closed our financing round 6 p.m. Christmas Eve.
And sometimes they were successful in the first one, they would fail in the second and the third, and then they were successful again. It's perfectly okay. Here, I don't know, but maybe in the past it was the traditional Chinese mentality, but then in mainland China it's not like that. The parents will be ashamed if their child failed a venture. Oh, a failed businessman. But if you go to the US, for example, it's just perfectly normal. And I think we need to change to that mindset. Open to new things, open to mistakes, open to failure, but then build on your mistakes and go on.
The Hong Kong Science Park top management, I think they need to have more flexibility on their funding management. Yeah, because during entrepreneurship, we are faced a lot of challenges. We need to change our plan from time to time. But regarding to their funding plan, it's hard for us to make changes. So I feel, we need to have some, improvement about the management on the incubation program.
So this is the end of our show. I want to thank again Mr. Hung and Mr. Wong to be part of our show. And I want to remind to everybody who has a different opinion to challenge us and take part of our show. See you next time. Bye-bye.